Hey there, I'm Mark, in affiliation with Spectrum Pulse, and yep, it's the return of Olivia Rodrigo, and it's Billboard BREAKDOwn.
I don't remember.
So in my experience in 2026, transitional weeks can be a bit of a headache. The gaps between album bombs can be tough to handle as you get a swath of new songs that can barely even stick around before getting wiped out by the next album bomb. I've made comparisons to 2018 where paradoxically radio traction winds up mattering all the more because that's going to be what preserves longevity, and where the upper echelon winds up more stagnant than anyone really wants, especially when radio is not inclined to move that quickly. But that said, the slower start of this year is gonna pick up more in the next few weeks if we go by the release schedules. That Drake album looming on the horizon is not helping matters. And that's not saying we don't have a major event this week or that there hasn't been turnover. And what do you know? That event happened in the top 10 with a brand new number 1 from Olivia Rodrigo, Drop Dead. Trust me, we'll get into the song much later on, but it's the sort of full court press that's going to take advantage of the slight weaknesses around the very top. Dominant across the board, a well-timed sales discount, not the Olivia that I expected to take the top spot, but one who has proven herself plenty capable of doing so time and time again. And I wish the conversation could end there, as Choosing Texas by Ella Langley slid back to number 2. It's going to rebound off of sales and especially streaming next week, let's make that clear, but I would not call it by any means guaranteed to hold on for that long, which is to be expected when you look at the radio and how Music Row has already pulled it. But since a decent number of mainstream publications, apparently not learning anything from 2023, have decided to paint her as reactionary despite little in the way of actual evidence outside of she's working with Morgan Wallen, including Stereo Gum utterly embarrassing themselves by highlighting people coded as right-wing in her audience, and the fact that she hasn't yet pulled out of Kid Rock's big festival that was booked well before she actually became by far the biggest name on that bill, well, it sparks some concern. Now, do I think she's probably more right-wing as a white girl from the South, especially given the framing of her material? Probably. In the same way I could play Whataboutism for damn near every act in the top 20 in identifying conservative or problematic coding, from Alex Warren to Sombr, from Tame Impala to Taylor Swift, from Zara Larsson's Burzum incident that everyone wants to sweep under the rug, to so much mess around Kehlani. But I also don't know enough one way or the other to make a value judgment here, and can also recognize that of the acts that have pulled out of Kid Rock's festival, few, if any, are actually embedded in Nashville around Music Row, where industry relationships still matter. So alongside understandable tabloid fatigue, Ella Langley's probably terrified of seeing what happened to Casey Musgraves in the mid-2010s happen to her now, especially as she just saw more historic chart success in the past 12 months than she'd likely ever expect in her entire life. And given the systemic rot that's still prevalent in Nashville radio that she's well aware of, she's only had one song shipped for pop crossover. She's probably waiting for the money problems around Kid Rock's festival to accelerate, so she's got a justified reason for pulling out in that they probably can't afford her new price. But what infuriates and exhausts me here is that Stereo Gum and a lot of the mainstream, they did not bother to learn anything the last time, so they tried to paint around a sloppy brush with country music. I don't see a righteous smear campaign against one of the few women doing unprecedented things in the genre, although the optics of that are rather revealing. I see a lot of cynical fishing for clicks and driving up stan drama and competition. It's borderline journalistic malpractice. If you're not embarrassed by headlines that even Whiskey Riff wouldn't run, you probably should be. Well, anyway, I Just Might by Bruno Mars held on to number 3, predominantly on the radio, where even though it's declining, it's got such a margin that it doesn't really matter there, and that was enough to hold over Man I Need by Olivia Dean down at number 4. It is bleeding radio and streaming too, and it does not have the margins to really hold its position. Kind of disappointing, I was rooting for it. What surprised me is that Be Her by Ella Langley, now with full Music Row radio support and a ton of streaming, only slipped back to number 5. If they actually bothered to ship this cross format, it probably could contend for number 1. Music Row, get on that. Unfortunately, we now have Ordinary by Alex Warren still holding at number 6. It's not exactly stable on radio or streaming, but it's sticking around because it has not fallen below the top 10 yet and would need 78 weeks to exit once below the top 5. You know, another 4 months. I had the sneaking suspicion that some of these recurrency rules might backfire a bit, Billboard. I'd say that it would open the door for So Easy to Fall in Love by Olivia Dean at number 7, except while radio loves this, streaming does not. It's going to be a real uphill battle against album bombs in order to get any higher. But this is where we get our second major story of this week. Daisies by Justin Bieber broke back into the top 10 at number 8 because he's seeing a considerable popular revival that's tied to Coachella, and the streaming is too strong to really deny, even if the radio doesn't appear to care. Hell, it got over Golden from K-Pop Demon Hunters at number 9 with its long, slow decline in all channels, and Folded by Kalani at number 10, which thanks to their radio revival and a coming album boost might stick around a little bit longer. Hard for me to complain, they really did a great job. Now for our losers and dropouts. Honestly, in the latter group, you're not seeing that many beyond the expected post-album bomb fade for Ella Langley. Alongside Aperture by Harry Styles exiting, it probably has a year-end list spot for 2026, but it might be closer to the margins than you might expect. Now, Ella Langley has had a lot of losses, as expected. Dandelion at 37, Broken at 68, You and Me Time at 73, We Know Us at 88, and Butterfly Season with Miranda Lambert at 89, but this is a decent number of songs sticking around, certainly preferable to what happened with BTS, as Swim collapsed out of the top 10 to 22, and Body to Body hit 95. The rest are losses off debuts I'm not really complaining about. Pinky Up by Katsai fell down to 49, Obvious by Chris Brown mercifully fell to 79, and Runway by Lady Gaga and Doechii is messy enough to hit 87. But as expected, we got a few returns and gains, where outside of a few songs that are scrabbling near the bottom, like Sweet Boy by Malcolm Todd at 99, Silent Treatment by Freya Sky at 98, Be Like a Woman by the late Chris Rainbow at 92, might as well include Younger You from Miley Cyrus scraping back at 77. The story here is Justin Bieber. I'll admit the breadth of this revival is not something I saw coming out of Coachella. Sure, maybe Speed Demon slipping back to 80, but Confident with Chance the Rapper at 43? Are we really going to go back to revisit the Journals era? I promise it's not that good. I mean, while we're near this territory in gains, I already mentioned Daisies, but Beauty and a Beat with Nicki Minaj at 11? What are we even doing here? Outside those, and well, Taylor Swift getting her big record store day sales haul for Elizabeth Taylor at 21, and Self-Aware by Temper City inexplicably sticking around at 85, it's a country week. Basically filling in the gaps that Ella Langley left behind. Well, I guess you can't really put Noah Kahan in that territory with Porchlight at 60. Told you it's gonna rebound. The big boost is coming with the album bomb next week, but the rest... Don't We by Morgan Wallen at 56, Dry Spell with Casey Musgraves at 64, Hate How You Look by Josh Ross at 70, Don't Tell On Me by Jason Aldean off the debut to 78, and Woman by Kane Brown off the return to 81. Turns out that between album bombs, when radio stability matters, the most stable and radio entrenched format is going to make moves. That's country for you. And speaking of which, we have more of it coming from the first swath of our new arrivals here in a pretty reasonably sized week. Starting off with number 97, Empty Words by Corey Kent.
Apologies, my broken promises, my don't give up on me's no goodbye when she left. I got what I deserve. I'm in this empty bed, 'cause she's over empty words.
Look, I'm more charitable to Rocky Mountain Low with Co Wetzel than most, but that didn't exactly give me the best of opinions on Corey Kent, especially going into this new song. My biggest criticism has been a striking lack of personality with this guy, and with this, well, pardon the pun, I might actually have to eat my words here, because this is actually pretty damn good. I don't exactly love the filter accentuating the vocal fry and grit he's putting on. It doesn't exactly blend well with some of the blockier drum mixing. It all feels more ragged around around the smoked out guitars to try and accentuate some soul, but it is a good juxtaposition with the softer liquid guitars in order to accentuate that mournful bluesy vibe for a song about how all of his lies and platitudes are now just falling on deaf ears after the relationship. She's over his empty words. And while he's still trying, he's coming to grips with the fact that it's really over. He got precisely what he deserved. He said it. And I think what works here is that he doesn't give himself an off-ramp. Corey Kent knows that he's been an asshole in some fashion and has to live with those consequences. That's a more compelling and dramatically mature song. So, yeah, props to him. Kind of a moody slow burn, but a good one. Did not expect this guy would be the one steadily improving, but yeah, worth hearing. Number 93, My Way by Riley Green.
Say I don't know how much more I can take. You say I'm on my way. If I had it my way.
I was just dreading that this was going to be a Frank Sinatra cover. It's not, thank God, he's not even sampled. But after Change My Mind really soured me on this guy in record time, this softer acoustic ballad with some spacious atmospheric effects and a really damn pretty fiddle, yeah, actually kind of worked on me, kind of got me back. Dude, why are you even trying to play for a douchey, edgy vibe? Your vocal timbre and writing aren't good at it compared to this sort of slow burn melancholy that I like way more. The song here is actually pretty domestic and romantic. A lot of very tasteful moments of a couple relaxing together in love, but the reality is that Riley Green does not have it his way. They've long broken apart. There's no reconnection coming anytime soon. It's just painfully sad as he fully understands who and what he has lost. Of course, having heard Megan Moroney's song reportedly about Riley Green, he absolutely may have done this to himself. I don't have that much sympathy. And the song doesn't show enough of what the relationship was or why it ended to add more context, but it also creates a strong enough sense of atmosphere you can get pulled in regardless. Hell, Dan Huff may have actually redeemed himself as a producer for once. So yeah, pretty damn good too. More of this might be better for you. All I'm saying. Number 84, I Want You by Cody Johnson.
I want you when you ain't. I want you when you're a sinner. And I want you when you're a saint. I want you till the cows come home. Until the moon turns blue. I want you.
Okay, this is uncanny. Are we gonna have 3 dudes in a row in country who have disappointed me previously deliver way better than I expected in the same week? Well, honestly, of the 3, this is by far the weakest. It's Cody Johnson trying to go into soft-focus romantic ballad mode about how he wants this woman regardless of how she looks and even when she screws up and maybe even hates him. To quote him, when you won't give and all you do is take. I mean, I know he's trying to be kind of sincere with it, but it feels a half step away from being condescending, centering his wants over everything, and the production trying to sound so stately and tasteful doesn't exactly help him. I like some of the burnished warm acoustics and touches of piano and fiddle, especially those 4 smoldering bars of electric guitar, but man, it feels like a really stock chord progression that feels basic by both the standards of country and easy listening, especially given how touched up and compressed and over-polished Johnson's vocals are. Honestly, it's not that it's so exactly bad as it's incredibly safe and underwhelming. I mean, Johnson used to try a hell of a lot harder than this. I certainly don't want it that much. Number 83, Ferrari by Clave Especial, Fuerza Regida, and Los Gemelos de Sinaloa.
Solo busca hacer billetes. Allá por el este me ven seguido. Cuarto solo de cuidar, niño tranquilo. Ponte rezado y bien cambiadito. Ando placoso como Robert De Niro.
Okay, am I the only one who's a little bit thrown by one of the acts of the Corrido song being named after associations with the Sinaloa cartel? I know, Bloods and Crips and Pyrus and all that in hip-hop, but in the execution with a lot of regional Mexican songs, it doesn't remotely match the tone for me. It's not menacing and it becomes distracting. Anyway, that's a duo alongside the American trio, Clave Especial, who have been on the cusp of crossing over the past 3 years with this song now coming from their EP this year, alongside Fuerza Regida, who just won't go away, and look, it's not as sleazy or rife with gangland flexing as you would expect, with more of a focus on the grind set in order to make money and be flexing and make one's family proud. But the song barely runs 2 minutes and the production's just not good. The reverb barely covering up the rickety acoustic hooks and the farty horns and the weedy accordion. I have heard the excuse about how this production is supposed to accentuate the live experience for years now, but it feels increasingly hollow when, well, the production's evolved over the past couple of years, and when the song feels so lacking in polish or unique flair outside that. Is it good? Not particularly. Am I going to care about this tomorrow? Even less likely. Number 61, Potential by Sombr. Okay, I genuinely want Sombr to keep sticking the landing. All the hits have been good to great thus far. Homewrecker did way better than I thought it would. So with this debuted at Coachella, I was curious if he could stick the landing, and honestly feels like both a step forward and backwards. Not his best, but one that gives me an idea where Sombr might be taking his sound, and that's promising. For one, the gauzy, synth-saturated tones around the more robust, rollicking bass line and the textured percussion patter, especially with all the vocal overdubs, it puts me in mind of vintage Tame Impala, and that could be promising. And I dug some of the robotic vocals fleshing out the saturated texture of that post-chorus. I don't know, I'm not sure the hook has quite the same magic. It's not as sticky. And with Sean Everett's mixing, I can't help but wonder if Sombr might wind up getting suffocated in his own mix. He can sound a little bit spindly as it is, a little underpowered, especially as everything gets even more buzzy and technicolor and saturated as the song concludes. And the content, I will say, is kind of promising. I like the angle of recognizing that he coped through the breakup by writing a bunch of songs on that debut album, and now newfound fame has him struggling to trust more as he moves on. But he also goes back to the same well of blaming her for it regardless, where more of the wistful reflections on potential feel kind of slight, even if he's aware that it's all just in his own head. I mean, this is the sort of song that's best suited as an album opener in order to set up wherever he's moving next with his content. It feels transitional. Otherwise, he's going to be going back to the same well. That'll lead to trouble. But as it is, pretty good. But my standards for Sombr have gotten higher. He's got more potential than this. Number 59, She Did It Again by Tyla featuring Zara Larsson.
Even when you feel like you can't get me out of your head. I got you like, she did it again. Even when you feel like you can't get me out of your head.
I don't know how to gauge Tyla's career stateside these days, pardon the pun. She's definitely got the international crossover, but her recent run to diversify her sound hasn't exactly led to good returns, and Chanel has only soured and tested my patience with more listens, so I wasn't quite sure how well she would mesh with Zara Larsson, especially with the song that, of course, references Britney Spears' iconic and far better song. Well, it would certainly be better if Zara Larsson's vocals were remotely mixed well. Tyla's already swimming in the auto-tune, which I don't think she needs. Why is the fidelity so obviously worse, where Zara Larsson's clipping the mix as the gummy synths build up around the weedy patter and the faded keys, to say nothing of that nasal pitched up voice that's bracketing the song that's damn near chipmunked. But the larger problem is that I don't really think you need Zara Larsson here at all. This is a bad bitch track where it's all about flexing how they're hot and awesome, all ego and flexing that they got these dudes falling all over them, where I just wish there was more that was unique for them to buy into it more. Fifth Harmony used to make a lot of songs like this with about as much vocal interplay, and I've just never been the biggest fan. Now, granted, I'm obviously not the target audience, and I appreciate that we actually got 3 verses, and it's a more developed song, but it feels like it's operating more on attitude and the novelty of the collab and the Britney Spears references than actually being all that good of a track. Just kind of mediocre. Even if it sticks around, I'm not impressed. And finally, number 1, Drop Dead by Olivia Rodrigo.
I've been standing like this, all pressed up in the bathroom line. You looking like an angel on the walls of Versailles. The most alive I've ever been. Kiss me and I might drop dead.
And now now we get the big one, where I'll admit I was excited to hear a new track from her. I loved seeing her live last year at Osheaga, where she was teasing that next album. And while Vampire was an underwhelming lead-off single for Guts, I hope that this could continue lean more towards rock music. I think it's a great lane for her. And truthfully, I'm not quite sure this gets there. I mean, credit to dodging the formula of the breakup song as the lead-off single, and that fuzz guitar is welcome alongside the glossy flickers and the more elegant strings, even if I'm starting to think that Dan Nigro's production is not giving Olivia Rodrigo nearly the muscle or explosive firepower she could effectively use. I've seen folks describe this as stepping more into Chappell Roan's territory, especially in a lot of the vocal overdubs on the final hook, and I don't really disagree. Can we get Neil Averon or Butch Vig in here? They're probably be better for her, diversify the sound. Now, granted, when the song is referencing Just Like Heaven by The Cure in the first verse, and a song all about getting infatuated with the hot dude at the bar, where she's now stalking him online, and if he kisses her, she might just drop dead, I get the melodrama. I get the juxtaposition between the soft and the loud. But I think I'd be way more on board if we got the explosion. It's not like Rodrigo isn't trying her ass off to sell it. I don't know. Every lead-off single from Olivia Rodrigo has required a bit of time to grow on me. Just with multiple listens, it has. I think it's got a ton of potential. It's certainly very good. But again, I'm waiting for great. Not quite dropping over this. And yeah, it's a week. Yeah, I cannot say I was expecting to consider the best of the week and thinking we might have a tie between Corey Kent and Empty Words and, yeah, okay, Drop Dead by Olivia Rodrigo. It's gonna snag it just barely over Sombr. I think potential needs a little bit more to get there. Maybe the album context might help. But the worst, yeah, I Want You by Cody Johnson wound up annoying me the most here. It's getting that spot over Tyla and Zara Larsson. But next week, yeah, Noah Kahan's delivering The Great Divide, while Ella Langley's collaborating with Morgan Wallen at the worst possible time for all the buzz. Stay tuned for that. But until then, I'm Mark. You're watching Billboard Breakdown in affiliation with Spectrum Pulse. And I'll see you next time.